Nice, wireless. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Tom Merrill, grateful member of this community. Please, last of you, take your seats. And now greet your neighbors. So, welcome to the Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living. And take this as a moment to make sure that any electronic devices you have on you are turned off or silenced. Right side up there. All right. As we know that these things connect us to the outside world artificially, but we have our own natural way of making that connection, which that just gets in the way of for the time being. And speaking of devices, we have a new device as of today. It's something that's been in the works for quite a few months to get going. And last time it came, come on now.
New devices.
New devices.
Well, okay. What I have here is we have a new camera video system. We're using the current, the past system for the next several weeks until the bugs get out of this. But essentially, we see the screen from this camera, and on the screen then we can move around and see a shot of just the band or just the speaker or just the altar or the screen above or a pan of the whole thing, that type of thing. So it's some experimentation going on with that. I'm saying that in particular so to be aware of this little guy sitting here on the second row, to not bump into it. Yeah. So that said, back to the script. So again, welcome to Golden Gate Center. We welcome you wherever you are on your spiritual path, knowing that there is something here in the music, in the words today that will take you further along that path. So join us in the morning chant, the words of which will be on the screen behind me, followed by this morning's spiritual mind treatment by Leslie, by Practitioner Leslie, to take you deeply into your center.
Before you start, I'm going to say something. And this is that one of the things that we believe and teach in the science of mind philosophy is that when we change our perspective, everything changes, yes? So now I'm going to guess that you're like me and that most of you are sitting in the seats you always sit in. So how are you going to change your perspective if you're sitting where you always sit? So here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to get up and move somewhere else in the room, preferably as close to the front as possible so you're all scrunched up together like family, and remain standing when you get there. Remain standing. Remain standing when you get there. Stand, stand, stand. Stand up, my darlings. That's it.
Oh, fantastic.
Stand up, stand up, stand up. A new... All right.
World. Whole
All right.
world.
Now, one of the reasons... Hello.
Hello.
Oh, they're already out of control. This is good. Okay, please stand up. Stand up if you can, if you're able to stand up. Please stand up. Okay? And here's why I'm going to do this. Here's why I'm going to actually, be authoritarian in this moment and make you stand up for the opening song. And here's why. Because when we sit down for the opening song, we're kind of these quiet spectators, looking at the screen and we're singing along. No. This service is alive. This service is all of us, and you are participants in the service, and it doesn't come alive without all of you. So we have to stand up because it brings our energy up, and we claim our space in the room. Yes? So, now, let's sing. Okay. God is the source of who I am. God is the dream of what I do. And if it's God I'm talking to, I give myself to be used by you. New verse. Love is the root of what I feel. Love is the spark that makes it real. And since it's love I aim to make, I share my gifts for heaven's sake. Yeah. Light is the light in all that's true. Light is the good that helps me through. I know that God is talking to me, so I can breathe and let it be. God is the source of who I am. Yeah. God is the dream in what I do. And if it's God I'm talking to, I give myself to be used by you. I give myself to be used by you. I give myself to be used by you. Yes. Now you may be seated.
All right. Thank you very much.
Center in.
All right, now we're going to go into the prayer song. So if you want to take a deep breath and take all that energy inside and
You remind me who I am. Remind me who I am. Though the winds may blow, still this I know. You remind me who I am. You reflect to me my soul. You reflect to me my soul. Though the winds may blow, still this I know, and you lead me home. You relax my worried heart. You relax my worried heart. Though the winds may blow, and this I know, and you lead me home. You remind me I'm alive. You remind me I'm alive. Though the winds may blow, still this I know, and you lead me home. And you lead me home.
You remind me I am alive. In all, through all, around all, I recognize the one infinite life, the one infinite self-existent, all-knowing, all-powerful presence, which expands across the past, the present, and the future, all in one perfect moment of now. And this infinite life principle creates out of itself. It creates everything formed and unformed, known and unknown. As it contemplates itself, it creates and it takes the form of its creation. And I know that I am one with that which is alive, awake, and aware of itself. And as this is true for me, this is the absolute truth for each one here. Each one is an individualized and unique expression of the one infinite life principle, which seeks to express itself by means of each one. So I speak my word for myself and for each one here. And I claim an opening in consciousness, an opening to the invitation of the infinite life principle, which is the all-knowing, all-powerful presence at the core and center of each one and throughout all creation. That this one is the infinite wisdom at the center of all consciousness. It is the inspiration within each individualized expression. And it is the life within the eternal wholeness in each one here and in all of creation, in every plane and in every place. I accept for each one the deep resonant realization that there is no separation in this life. It is all-inclusive, it is all-powerful, and it gives of itself unconditionally. It gives all of itself to each one in every moment for the fulfillment of life itself as it assimilates itself through each one and through all of creation. It brings to overflowing the greatest vibration of love and life. This is what it does. This is how it celebrates itself through creation. And this is where I pour forth my deep thanksgiving for this realization, for this acceptance, this willingness to open to this life. I give great thanks for the shift in consciousness right now that takes place within each one for a demonstration of this life, now and forever. I release my word to the law of mind, which enfolds my word into itself and brings it into manifestation right now and eternally. And so it is. Amen.
You remind me who I am. You remind me who I am. Though the winds may blow, still this I know. And you lead me home. And you lead me home.
Thank you all for being such good sports and welcoming our Reverend Mary on her first day. I am so grateful for the beautiful, smooth transition and the consciousness that just church and this community holds to come together in these times of uncertainty and to create a safe sanctuary where we can come and be together. So today, I thought it would be really fun to welcome Mary in a special way because Sky was Mary's music director in Santa Rosa.
Mary brought me into Science of Mind.
And I thought it would be a really sweet segue to have Sky here today with his beautiful songs. Please welcome Sky Nelson.
Thank you. Mary brought me into Science of Mind at Global Heart Center for Spiritual Living about 10 years ago. And in that time, I wrote this song. And Amanda, behind me, used to play with me every week. And she sang this song with me and played this song with me when it was first performed. Sang, I'm not sure. This is about welcoming the new me. But the new me is not the new me that I need to create, that I need to manifest or manufacture. It's a new me that's always been there, waiting underneath the surface, my authentic me. The simple things that live inside me have found an open door. I finally recognize who I've become. And the knowing that has always known me is now easy to my lips. And I realize the beauty of my gifts. I am more than I ever thought I'd be. Welcoming the new, welcoming the new. And I am the change I always hoped to see. Welcoming the new me. The day can pass me quickly by without seeing all I've done and all the many blessings I've begun. All the people that I've brushed my heart upon, just going through their day. And I have helped them find a state of grace. And I am more than I ever thought I'd be. Welcoming the new, welcoming the new. And I am the change I always hoped to see. Welcoming the new me. I want you to clap and sing along. Welcoming, welcoming, welcoming the new. Welcoming, welcoming the new. Welcoming, welcoming, welcoming the new. Welcoming, welcoming, welcoming the new. Welcoming the new me. One more time, let the sunshine flow through your hands today. Welcoming, welcoming, welcoming the new. Welcoming, welcoming, welcoming the new. Welcoming, welcoming, welcoming the new. Welcoming the new me. I am more than I ever thought I'd be. Welcoming the new. Welcoming the new, and I am the change I always hoped to see. Welcoming the new me. Welcoming the new me. Welcoming the new us.
Oh, thank you, Sky, Bodhi, and Amanda. Well, here we are. My goodness. Good morning. I just want to look at you all. Where am I? Okay. If you are here with us for the very first time this morning, welcome. I want you to know whoever you are, wherever you may be on your pathway of faith, you're welcome here. We're delighted you chose to be with us this morning. And our membership team would like to give you a gift. So I understand that, you know, when you're new someplace, you don't want to be identified. Unfortunately, we can't get these to you psychically. So what we're going to ask you to do is, if you're here for the very first time this morning, just be brave and give a wave. Oh, these are all, oh, yay, we have a very brave person over there. Yay, good, thank you. Appreciate that. You will find info in there about us, and there's also a blue card that you can fill out and turn in at the membership table back there, and they will give you a free book. And the free book is this little book, What Religious Science Teaches. So this tells you about the philosophy and about what we believe here by our founder, Ernest Holmes, founder of the Centers for Spiritual Living. And we're glad that you're here. That's just great. All right. So this year, the Centers for Spiritual Living, which we are a member of, it's our larger organization, the theme for this year is 100 Years of Science of Mind, not because the organization is actually 100 years old, but because Reverend Dr. Ernest Holmes, who founded it, published his first book 100 years ago. And so we're celebrating it that way. And all of the centers that have chosen to participate are also following along with a series each month. Not that we do the same talk, but we have kind of the same general theme. And so we're in a new month. We're in August. And this month's theme is spiritual mind treatment, which is our form of prayer. I know that's a weird title for it, and I'll explain that in a little while. And so what I want to talk about in terms of spiritual mind treatment is the technique and the fire. The technique and the fire. So today, my talk is the simple 5-step prayer. And the simple 5-step prayer is what we use here. So I want to share something with you first about prayer, because this is important. When we learn spiritual mind treatment, when we learn this form of prayer, people sometimes get tangled up in, oh, by the way, hi out there in YouTube land. Good morning. We're glad that you're with us here. When we teach this, people sometimes get confused about trying to learn the steps and the right wording and all the guidelines and all that, and they think it's so heady. Form is important, but it's not all important. These two ministers had taken a day off to relax and go fishing together, and they're out in their rowboat when they heard somebody praying out loud, not that far away from them on the shore, and it seemed like the fellow was trying to say the Lord's Prayer, except that the lines were all mixed up. And some of the words were wrong. And so the first minister said to his friend, that's really shameful. How could a grown man not know the right words to the Lord's Prayer? And the second minister said, I agree. It's our obligation to row into the shore and set him straight. We can't have him praying out loud with all the wrong words. So she rowed the boat back to shore, and they spent the next hour teaching the man the Lord's Prayer, line by line, word by word, until he began to get it. And when they finally thought that he had it pretty well, they said to him, okay, you're doing fine now. You just keep practicing until you can remember all of it without any pauses. And he said, I will. Thank you, Reverends, for teaching me. And so they rowed back out to the middle of the lake to keep fishing quietly, and the man was repeating the prayer over and over again. And then about 10 minutes went by, and one of the ministers looked up and pointed in the direction of the shore. And the other minister turned around to see the fellow they had just been teaching. He was walking toward them across the surface of the lake. And he got over to them and he said, I'm sorry, how does that second line go again? You know, form is important, but it's not the most important part of it necessarily. So that's good for us to know and remember, I think, when we're doing this, because we can get so overwhelmed with the steps. So I want to show you the steps in a very simple way. First of all, I'd like you to close your eyes and imagine that you're someplace where the night is very clear and there's no moon, but the stars are very bright. And you're somewhere outside of the city so that you can actually see clouds of stars. And it's entirely still. And it looks like you're looking into forever. And suddenly you feel overwhelmed with this sense of the vastness and awesomeness of that. And you feel your own heart beating. And you realize that you are just as complex as everything you're looking out at. All right, now open your eyes up and look back up here. The first step is God is. And when we start there in prayer, we let whatever it is we're praying for go. We start with the infinite presence. The infinite presence, whatever it is in our image of the infinite presence that gives us a sense of awe and immensity and wholeness and possibility. And then we realize in the next moment that all of that vastness and complexity is also here, right where we are. So God is then evolves into I am. Now, when we say I am in that way, I'm not talking about Mary. I am is the awareness of being, the awareness of the thoughts and what's around me. My I am is the very same I am that you're saying when you think you're referring to you, Jim or Laura or Russ or Mary. It's the same I am. So when we say I am in that sense, we're not talking about the person who has the problem. Are you with me here? So when we're doing the prayer, it starts from a place where there is no problem. Out of that, then, we say, therefore, because God is, because I am that, therefore I know. Now we state the spiritual truth. This is also not the problem, okay? When we state the spiritual truth, we're actually in a way talking about the opposite of the problem. We're talking about the spiritual truth behind the appearance of the problem. So I like to tell my Science of Mind students in the basic classes that it's kind of like you have a camera with a manual focus on it. Remember those 35 millimeter cameras? And when you look through the lens of a 35 millimeter camera and you focus it, depending on how you set the f-stops, is this getting too weird? Okay. You can decide what the depth of field is you want for your focus, right? So you can focus up quite close so that what's right in front of you is in focus. You can focus in a distance so that what's in front of you is blurry. Or you can focus in infinity so everything is kind of in focus. What we do in our lives most of the time is we have it on a short focus. So we're looking at what's right in front of us, the problem or the experience, and it's so compelling that it seems real to us. But there's this whole thing behind it that we're not seeing that's out of focus. So when we're doing prayer, what we're doing is we're taking that lens and we're making the front of it all blurry, the appearance, the condition, the circumstance that has us so hooked. We get that all blurry, but we focus on the background. We focus on the source, what's behind all that appearance, that which doesn't change, that which is whole and infinite and, bless you, and balanced and abundant and loving and beautiful. We focus on that, and we claim that as the truth of who we are, because it is. Because whatever the condition is that we're so hooked by, that is temporary. That's going to pass. If you're diagnosed at birth with a chronic illness, eventually it's going to pass because you're going to exit that form and you're going to be fine. You always were fine. You were just inhabiting a particular form for a particular soul purpose during that life. Are you still with me? I'm still on the planet, right? Okay, good. So we're really stating the spiritual truth, in a sense ignoring the condition. Now, when the condition is really compelling, what we do, too, is we look at that condition directly and we say, you have no power over me. So we unplug its power. So in addition to speaking the spiritual truth, which is, this body knows exactly what to do, it is attuned to the infinite, it is whole, complete, and perfect. It is responding now in all of the best possible ways to everything that's being given to it. And it exists in a field of infinite perfection, where this is the template. This is matching the infinite template that I was given from the very beginning and coming into alignment and greater vibration with that. And I accept that. I welcome that. I recognize that as the truth of who I am. And so anything unlike that, okay, now I'm unplugging the condition from me. Anything unlike that is dissolved into its native nothingness. Any resistance I have is just a mirage. Any fear, any resistance in any consciousness anywhere. And so I welcome the truth into my experience. I welcome the changes that it brings, because I'll tell you something. Whatever you're praying for, whatever it is that you're doing treatment for, It's really only for one thing: more God, or whatever you call that infinite juiciness. We're praying for more God in the form of a loving relationship, in the form of a new car, in the form of a different place to live, or new job, better health, better outlook. We're always praying for more God. The other thing that I want you to know that's very important is that there's only one thing we can actually create, and that's abundance. We can only create abundance. We can't create lack. It isn't a thing. But what we can create is an abundance of the appearance of lack. We can create an abundance of the appearance of misery. But there is absolutely nothing that says that because your circumstances are difficult, you have to be miserable. See, that's not really a law. That's something that we caught in consciousness, and we just went along with it because we didn't know any better. You don't have to be miserable no matter what's going on. You can rebel against that and decide to be absolutely wonderful no matter what it looks like. And what happens when we do that is that the universe goes, there's a mismatch here. Looks like the form needs a little tweaking to match the inner vibration of this being. Is this making sense? So when we're doing treatment, what we're doing is we're lifting that inner self up to a higher place. The condition can do what it wants, but we're lifting ourselves out of that condition. We're saying, you have no power over me, and this is what's true about who I am. And you're just passing show, all this noise down here. I'm not attached to it. It's resolving itself. So then, having done that, so God is, I am, therefore I know, this is the truth. So now I feel pretty grateful about all that, about knowing all that. And I express my gratitude. And then there's really nothing left to do. It's all finished, so I can let it go. Does that make sense? It's really an amazing flow, right? So if I were to physically demonstrate a treatment to you without words, it would be like this. Okay, that's the fire, right? What I was talking about here, that's the form, that's the fire. So spiritual mind treatment, our form of prayer, there are some things that it isn't, that is different sometimes than how we've learned traditional prayer. So it is not adoration, because that means there's two. It's not groveling. Oh, I'm just such a worm. It's not flattery. Oh, you're so great. It's not begging. Please, 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 please don't let the ball come to me. That's how I used to pray in school. Out in right field playing softball. That was my prayer. And then when it was our turn at bat, it was, please let us be out before I have to bat. It's not bargaining, if you'll just do this, I promise I will tithe. I promise I will forgive my sister. I promise I will. It's not that. And it's not an apology, because the infinite is not offended. So it's none of that stuff. But there are some things that it is. So what is it then? Oh, well, that's what it's not. It's none of that stuff. You can see they're busy. These folks, they're really engaged in the kind of all of this over here, right? It's not that. But this is what it is. It is the little person expanding in consciousness into the truth of who they are. That's the movement of the prayer. It is called spiritual mind treatment. So spiritual, which is not having to do with physical, but having to do with the spirit. If you want physical intervention, you go to a doctor or an alternative practitioner. We believe in all that, because if God is all there is, God is the pill, God is the shot, God is the surgery, God is the anesthetic. What else is it going to be, right? So spiritual, though, we're approaching it spiritually, not physically in the prayer. Mind, so this has to do with thought and belief. Spiritual mind. This is what's being treated. Spiritual mind and treatment, which is a specific healing process. Okay? It is a technique that can be learned and an experience that has to be felt. Come on, clicker, you can do it. There we go. It is a technique that can be learned and an experience that has to be felt, that must be felt. So, the technique. If you want to learn anything from a sport to how to drive, to how to play a game, anything, you have to learn first the form. What is the form of this thing? How do you do it? And then you have to learn the guidelines. So for every game you play, there are rules. For every sport you engage in, if you're doing art, if you're doing anything, you have to learn the guidelines. So when we learn treatment, we learn the form, which is the steps. We learn the guidelines, which is do this, don't do that. And then we have to practice. This is the awkward part. Now, wouldn't you say if you're learning Aikido, if you're learning to ride a bike, if you're singing a song, if you're learning a new technique at your job, if you're learning how to do programming, if you're learning to be an architect, no matter what you're doing, you have to practice, and that's the awkward part. You know, I always want to do everything really well the first time so I'm not embarrassed. Anybody else like that? You don't want to embarrass yourself and make a mistake in front of other people and they see you and go, oh my God. Years ago, I heard Julia Cameron say that when she was teaching filmmaking, she asked a bunch of famous directors if they would give her copies of their early student films. Because she said the problem is that we are comparing our early pots that we're making to famous potters and feeling inadequate. So I wanted to show my students that they started somewhere too. And all but one of them would not do it. The only one who sent her his early student films was George Lucas. And she said, you know, we watched that film, and it was like you wanted to say, have you thought about accounting, George? So it was really helpful for people to realize that, you know, you can become a huge success, but that's not necessarily your first effort, right? And so when we're learning spiritual mind treatment too, it's awkward, it's a little weird at the beginning, particularly if you ever learned another form of prayer. But what we want to do is learn the form, the guidelines, and the practice, because it's in the practice that the magic starts to happen. That's when we go to the fire. Now the fire is the feeling or the passion or the aliveness that comes into the treatment when you're moving through it. At the very beginning, when I was first in Science of Mind, and I hadn't taken any classes at all, that we had a brochure that was how to do a spiritual treatment. It had been written by Ernest Holmes. And it was in old-fashioned font and everything. It looked like it had been printed in the 1940s. And I took that home and I sat on my couch and I sat down and I read the first part that said, you know, get comfortable and do this and say this. So I got myself centered and then I opened one eye and I'd read that section out loud. And then I'd close my eye and get the feeling of that. And then I'd open one eye and read the next section. And you know, the thing about Ernest Holmes is he only ever did a 3-step treatment. He never did 5 steps. We added the last 2 later. So anytime you read in The Science of Mind or in any of his books where you see a treatment, you're only going to see 3 steps. Now, the reason we have the other 2 is because Reverend Dr. Orrin Moen, who was the minister in Oakland at one point, and he was also originally the director of education at Home Office, he said to Ernest at one point, don't you think we should have a a gratitude, a thanksgiving and release step here, because that's what we're really doing anyway at the end. And he said, Ernest said to me what he always said whenever anybody made a suggestion was, okay, fine, go right ahead. And then he never mentioned it again. But because of Oren, we have a 5-step treatment. And it just allows the flow to be complete, because sometimes as human beings, we don't let things go particularly well without making a definite statement that we're letting it go. And so we go into that gratitude place, and then we let it go. But one of our practitioners in Santa Rosa, when I first went up there, a practitioner emeritus that we had, whose husband had been the minister there years earlier, she said to me once, I spend most of my time in the first 2 steps, because after that, the rest of it is really done. And that was really true. That was really true. So when we go toward the fire, what we have is a movement of feeling. There's a movement of feeling happening in us, that we're using words that enliven us, that let us feel what we're saying in a way that wakes something up. And then it is a surrender. It's a surrender into the larger truth that's beyond what we're stuck with, what we're stuck in. It is a flow. Now, you can't flow as well at the beginning when you're trying to learn the steps, because you have to keep opening your eye and looking at what's next. But even so, there's a flow that happens. And finally, what we want, and this is what really clinches it, is we embody the desired experience. What would it feel like if I were in that perfect, loving relationship? How would I feel? What would I do? If I had the job that's ideal for me, how would I feel about that? What would it be like when I was working with other people or on my own? So we want to embody that inside ourselves. We want the treatment to give us the feeling of what we want. And so that's what the fire is there. Ernest Holmes, our founder, said, between prayers, so this is when you finish your prayer, between prayers, try to keep your mind poised in such a way that you do not contradict what you've said in your treatment. Keep your mind open at all times to a divine influx of new inspiration, new power, and new life. So when a practitioner prays for you, your job then is to keep releasing your resistance and welcoming the result. Releasing your resistance and welcoming the result. Sometimes your practitioner will give you homework, like an affirmation to do or something to read, or maybe it'll be something to actually do that will help you. Do it, because the practitioner is not the whole prayer. You're the other part of it. And so they do the technique and the fire for you, because they're not attached to your problem. They do it for you, and we ministers and practitioners have our own practitioners too, because we can't always get there. And so then our job, while someone else is treating for us, is to receive it, to say yes, to say thank you, to let ourselves be changed. Because I said earlier, we're always praying for more God, but here's the sneaky thing. Here's the sneaky thing that's attached to that. When you're praying, you're also praying to be changed. You're praying to be changed. How many of you just love and thrill to change? Oh, that's pretty good. I'm not one of those, I have to say. You know when Reverend Carol tells her story about the baby penguins learning to swim? You know the ones that pace and call back and forth to the parents and negotiate and argue? That's me. So that's why it took me so long to figure out I was supposed to be your minister. You know, I was negotiating, you know, with my other parts of my consciousness until I got it. Then I finally got in the water. You know how that goes. So I'm not necessarily one who's enthusiastic about lots of change, but when you're praying, you're asking to be changed, and you will be. You will be. And maybe not in ways that you could have predicted. When I put together my little book, Coming Up for Air, which is my favorite quotes that I use in talks and workshops and classes, I had a few of my own, and this is one that I put in there. The way we live is the real prayer we're praying. Our life, with its actions, beliefs, words, and thoughts, becomes the real prayer of power. What creative law acts upon is the real prayer, regardless of the words we mouth in what we think is prayer. If our life contradicts those words, the prayer that is made manifest is the one we have been living, not the one we have been mouthing. Does this make sense? And so that's why it's so important for us to go into that place in prayer where we're so in the God is, I am, that when we're speaking the truth and embodying it, it becomes easy to know that that's true and to feel grateful and to let it go. Because the shift has already happened in the first 2 steps. So, are you ready for a prayer? All right, so we're going to do a prayer. Oh, I want to tell you a couple quick stories first before I do this. One is, my son has grown up in Science of Mind. He doesn't go to church now. He's 38. But he is a living embodiment of Science of Mind. In fact, he's been married for about 13 years. But his last girlfriend said to me once, our friends don't know what to make of Luke. They don't know what he is. From a spiritual perspective, she meant, because he thinks God is everything. And I said, uh-huh. When Luke was about 9 or 10 years old, we were at Asilomar, which is our summer conference that we used to always have down near Madera in Pacific Grove. And we were leaving after a week at Asilomar, and I had stopped into a coffee shop, because I'm a coffee person. And I got myself a coffee, and I got into the car and promptly spilled it on my hand, and it was very hot. And so I said to him, go back in there and see if they'll give you some ice. Tell him I spilled my coffee and I burned myself and I need some ice. So he did that, and he came back and he gave me the ice, and then he put his hand over my hand, and he kind of did a 9-year-old's version of a treatment for me. By the time I got home from Asilomar, it wasn't red, it wasn't sore, nothing, everything was fine. Some years later, when he was a teenager and we were in Huntington Beach, he came up to me between services one morning and said a woman had fallen over in the parking lot. And there were people there with her, and he said, Mom, we need to do a treatment right away. That was his orientation. That was his, it was just, that's what you do. So, what I'd like you to do is stand up with me, and we're going to do a treatment with the movement and the words, okay? So, first I'm going to invite you to put your hands up and imagine the vastness of the sky and the stars that, you know, even right now, when we can't see them, those galaxies are right there. So breathe them in. I know the infinite presence is vast, loving, deep, that it contains all possibilities, all love, joy, beauty, peace, wholeness, grace, goodness. It is everywhere around me, and it is all that I am right here. All of the grace, beauty, peace, goodness, wholeness, abundance of the infinite is right here in every cell, in my consciousness, in my very life. It is all that I am in and out of form. And therefore, I know that life is good, that I am guided, that wholeness is my nature, that I am drawing to myself right now everything that I need for this day in guidance, in joy, in creativity and celebration. I know this for me and for every person in this place. Breathe it in, welcome it, and let it fill you with gratitude. Knowing this is true, I am deeply grateful. And so I let it be. I just let it be. And so it is. And so it is. Namaste. You can sit down.
You know, we are all called, each one of us, to be the change that we wish to see in the world. We're all called to step into our power, step into our voice. And when we do that, it cannot help but come to be. This precious place, it holds a charge, can light a candle, can light a spark. An open heart is what it asks, paying forward, giving back. Imagine more, and from that seed, it cannot help but come to be. It cannot help but come to be. We get some clapping going? There we go. You step on stage, that's you. You take command. You feel the privilege of the platform where you stand. Your message flies, and then it lands upon the open hearts delivered to your hands. Imagine more, and from that seed, it cannot help but come to be. It cannot help but come to be. Look what we have created. 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 I want you to sing with me. Look what we have created. Look what we have created. One more time. Look what we have created. Look what we have created. Imagine more. And from that seed, it cannot help but come to be. It cannot help but come to be. It cannot help but come to be.
Sky Nelson. Yeah. I think it's offering time. Do we have a prosperity person? Well, you'll have to do it, I guess.
Really, completely, deeply. Oh, so will the ushers please come forward?
We're going to do the blessing before they go out.
Okay, I don't have. Okay, great. So we're going to put that up now? Okay.
So, Ceci, give us the blessing. Yeah.
Sorry, new program, new way, new creations, new beginnings.
So have everybody just put it on the card.
Yes. So if you put your blessings, your contributions, your pledge cards, whatever, even just your hand over your heart, and say these words with me. This gift I give is God in action. I now send it forth to bless and to prosper. I know that everywhere it goes, it is creating a world living in love, one heart and one thought at a time. And so it is. Would you please collect the offering?
I am God's eyes. There's only love. There's only love. I am God's eyes. When anything comes, I offer it love. I am God's heart. There's only love. There's only love. I am God's heart. When anything comes, I offer it love. I am God's lips. There's only love. There's only love. I am God's lips. When anything comes, I offer it love. When anything comes, I offer it love. I am God's eyes again. I am God's eyes. There's only love. There's only love. I am God's eyes. When anything comes, I offer it love. We are God's heart. We are God's heart. There's only love. There's only love. We are God's heart. When anything comes, I offer it love. When anything comes, I offer it love. When anything comes, we offer it love.
So on behalf of Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living, we do, all of us now, accept this offering with gratitude, knowing it empowers the vision and the mission of this center. And we send it off into the world to do that work as God in action now. And so it is. Thank you, ushers. Thank you, Gail. Thank you for jumping up and doing that, even though you didn't know it was you. All right. Yay! We actually got mostly through things in order. Woohoo! Hey! Woo, woo, woo. I want to invite Reverend Dr. Barbara Leger up. Temenos has a fundraiser coming up, and she wants to let you know about it. She's still here for another couple of weeks, I guess. And so, hop on up here and tell us.
I don't hop so well right now. But she was my first teacher, really. And what I remember was that she made room for Carol to join. And then Carol made room for Mary to join. Yeah. And I was so struck by this today, how important it is to recognize that we're all in this kind of flow. And it was her, the very first Sunday, I saw her up on that stage in this magnificent Luther Burbank Center, and I said, I could do that. I did. It was my very first Sunday. So, something huge is beginning. And it's just the continuation of all of those huge things that we've enabled each other to do and be. Mm-hmm. And I see so many wonderful old Santa Rosa friends, and Susan, who used to say, there's only one prayer, heal the separation in Sky. And so I just want to acknowledge the power of these things that we can think we've lost track of, but they've all been steps to that. I'm so blessed, and we're so blessed that you're here. Oh. And we love that Carol made room so that we can love her and you together. And it's really beautiful. This board and this community has done a masterful thing. A masterful thing. Really. Really. So actually, I just want to invite you to go to the back table and pick up this little flyer for this fundraiser. We haven't ever done a fundraiser. But anyway, my son lives on 6 beautiful acres with a pool and an outside kitchen, and so you're all invited. And you could rent a bus or whatever you want. And just come on up, and it's Saturday the 25th of August. And then I leave shortly thereafter, a couple days later. But what I wanted to really ask you is, because I feel a new beginning energy here. I mean, and Ann Crawford is here. I mean, it just about knocked my socks off. She was the leader of the first partnership team here when I left 17 years ago, this September 11th. It'll be 17 years, and Ann was leading the team. And within 3 weeks of me going, she and John Peroulis and a handful of other people came to Ukraine and did our first service project. And so I just read these signs, and I know something really powerful is afoot again. And so I wanted to ask you, if it were possible to imagine the kind of partnership that would bring to life this and this in our partnership as we take Science of Mind to Ukraine, which stands at the crossroads of so many flashpoints right now, what kind of partnership could you imagine could be a service to what wants to happen there? Honestly, that's the most important question. This partnership is essential and so valuable to us. And what would it look like to you? What could it be like? And then talk to me at the back today and tell me. And then what part of it do you want to be? Because I know what part of it I want to be. I want to be the bridge here from there and there from here. That's my life. Peace in my lifetime is our purpose in Ukraine. And that can be your purpose too. One heart at a time, one hand, $1, one anything. So I'm so grateful, and I feel this powerful moment. And I'm so glad to be part of it. Aren't you? Yes. Blessed be.
Thanks, Barbara. All right. All right. We are having a memorial celebration for Janet Carroll Ryan, our beloved practitioner who made her transition recently. It will be August 19th, so that's in a couple weeks, right here on Sunday. It will be following the service. There will be a potluck, and there will be a memorial. So we want you to bring things for the potluck, but also we need materials for the memorial. And some of you might not be potluckers, but we do have a box over here for donations to support the memorial itself, for decorations or whatever it is that we need for the service. The church has already advanced the money to rent this space, but we need some more stuff for that. So we invite you to donate for that celebration. And you know, I want to, while I have this moment, I just want to acknowledge that there is sadness in our community at her passing because she was so deeply beloved by so many people. So it dovetails with also the bittersweetness of having Reverend Carroll move on into this next part of her life after 23 years here. That these two things, while we're very happy for them and also for our own unfoldment, there's also sadness, yes? You can feel that. So what I'd like you to do is hold the hand of the person next to you for just a moment. And as you do that, to think of Janet radiantly smiling, standing next to one of her gorgeous altars, and consciously bid her well. And I want you to imagine Reverend Carroll with Paul in the car now on the way to Memphis. I think they get to Michael tonight. And just enfold her in the brightest love right now. And gratitude for all that she brought here. And we honor the sadness of letting go of these two dear ones, too, as they move into the next adventures of life. And so bring your love back to the hands that you're holding. These people who we're together with right here, this wonderfully solid, beautiful, joyful, amazing community of people who are love in action. And just bless the hands you're holding and let yourself be blessed by the hands that you're holding. This is part of Janet's gift to us this morning and part of Reverend Carol's gift to us also. And so it is. Quickly. All right. Gail Durkin, who was just up here doing the offering, is going to be teaching Quick Start. It is coming up August 26th, and there's more information about that coming, but it's up there behind me. My first class is coming as your minister. It's going to be starting on September 11th. 9/11. It'll be starting on 9/11, which is a Tuesday. It's going to be 10 Tuesdays. It is Cultivating Freedom and Enticing the Divine, a practical mysticism. This is a certificated class, so the prerequisite is you have to have taken Foundations or Beyond Limits. But if you've done that, you're good to go. I invite you to sign up at the education table this morning. If you like food as much as I do, you're probably hoping there's some over there this morning. It might be not, because if you didn't bring some, it couldn't be there. Our team is on vacation for the summer, so we invite you to bring snacks, have them ready to go, and we will just shower you with appreciation. I want to remind you, if you are a Leo and you're a member here, you get a free session with a practitioner. So you can fill out a birthday checkup over there at the practitioner table this morning, and you can call the practitioner of your choice, there are lists of practitioners, and set up that free session. Don't pass that up if you're carrying some conditioner around with you. It's time to move beyond that focus. Women's Spirit Rising is coming in September. Lori Greer isn't here this morning, I don't think, but, oh, yes, she is. She's way back there. Lori, would you stand up for a second so they can eyeball you? Talk to Lori if you're interested in this wonderful women's retreat coming up in September, and you can register online for that. Lastly, Reverend Carol is going to be doing her thing in Greece, coming up late June in 2019. And actually, we should have something up there about how to do that. I'll find out how to do that, because she's not here for you to talk to, so I can't answer that question. But I also want to thank everybody who put this service together this morning. So I want to thank Bodhi and Sky and Amanda for the music. And just hold your applause till I do this. I especially want to draw your attention to the gorgiosity happening over here. Marsha Dawson did this morning with the technique and the fire. You see the Buddha doing the meditation. There's the technique. You see the fire. You see the blossoming happening. This is our prayer in action. This is another visual of it. So Marsha, beautiful. Thank you. I want to thank Ron and Tom and Ceci over here on AV, and especially you guys for futzing with the new technology and playing with it and getting it to work and all that. I want to thank Rick, who's back there on sound, making sure that you could actually hear me this morning, and Jim Homa, who reset the chairs for us into this different configuration to play with for now, and we'll see how that goes, and who always makes sure that everything is ready for us when we come in. I want to thank the hospitality team, whatever's happening over there, anybody who was here for the kids this morning. You are all kids, even though we didn't send you to class. And who else? Who have I forgotten? Our practitioners this morning. And they are available for a prayer immediately following the service. They do mini prayers for free. So if you need a prayer, make sure you get one. Go to the table. They'll set you up. Anything else? Did we do it? We have done it. Let's stand for the benediction, which we're going to say together, and the final song of the morning. So please join me in saying this as you take hands with one another. I now walk, so that, say with me, so that whoever walks beside me dwells in the presence of God. And whoever places a hand in mine is lifted. And whoever thinks of me is illumined with God consciousness. For Spirit and all people and I, are one eternally. And so it is. Okay. I am a prayer for peace. Wherever I go, peace goes with me. I feel peace inside. With every breath, peace abides. I know
wakes up, and peace is every step. And peace is every step.